Hello, and welcome to the Island Lamb. I'm Diane. This is episode 13. Enjoying simple holiday traditions. And I hope you enjoyed the footage at the beginning of this video, and those Christmas trees and those ornaments reside in my mother's home. And I had mentioned to you in the last episode that I hoped to have an interview with my mom where she talked about the years that she worked as a buyer in a Christmas tree shop. And that interview is going to have to happen next week. I did go off island, but we had a very busy day, and we went to my mom's garden club luncheon, and we went out to dinner with friends and family. So I managed to get the photos and some video, but I didn't get the interview, and that's fine because she'll be here. And my next episode, we'll have that little talk together, and I'll share that with you. But boy, aren't my mother's Christmas trees amazing? The first tree you saw was her angel tree, and that angel tree, as I hope you could see as I focused in on the faces of those angels, is absolutely heavenly. And my mom has been collecting ornaments for years and years and years, and we're going to get into that next week. I want her to talk about some of her experiences at that beautiful country store and Christmas shop that she worked in. But those particular ornaments, as you could see, the detail in the eyes and the wings, and that angel at the top of the tree playing the violin. And when you're sitting in my mother's living room at night and that tree is lit, you do feel like those angels are just flying towards you and playing you holiday music. And also you saw an angel sitting in a beautiful sleigh being pulled by 2 golden reindeer, and that was in her bow window. And I could just sit and look at that and just go into a little fairyland thinking about that angel managing that sleigh with those beautiful reindeer. We also looked at her Santa tree, which is in her kitchen. And that Santa tree, I think that just started off as a couple of little ornaments. And before you knew it, it was so filled that she now has to put the Santas under the tree, around the tree. And she's been collecting those Santas, 30 years. And every year I give her a Santa for her tree. And you may have noticed at the top towards the left, there was a little knitted ornament. And those little knitted ornaments are really fun. And this is a pattern that I did find on Ravelry. And I have been including the information and the designer's name. Her name is Lisa. And they are so fun to make. So they're made flat. You do seam them up in the back. You can add a little a way that you can hang them onto your Christmas tree, or you can omit that and you can put some beans, some dried beans, or some weights in the bottom so that they'll just stand. And she gives you this pattern. I tried to follow the pattern so you could get a feel. She gives you this pattern and she gives you this little reindeer pattern. But really, and I made these last year, and I'm inserting a photo of some of the ones I made last year. You can really, once you've made one, you can make these your own. And she recommends Debbie Bliss Cashmere Merino yarn, but I just use whatever I have in my stash. And I was lucky enough that I had some of that Angora left from my Swedish boho stickning sweater, and I had some mohair from a project that I'll talk about in a little bit. And I had, I put some little red noses on the reindeer, and I put a nose on the Santa. She didn't have that in the pattern, but again, you can do whatever you want. I think I added holly one year inside Santa's beard. And last year I gave one of these to each of my husband's siblings, to my brother, to my mom, and some good friends along with their Christmas card. So that was just a fun way to use up some stash, a fun way to feel like you're in the spirit. And again, it's just is a little simple holiday joy. You can make one of these in about 2.5 hours. I mean, probably even less. I went, spent a little time playing with the yarn and doing a little embroidery. So what am I wearing? Well, if any of you have been watching YouTube or Instagram or on Ravelry, you know all about this sweater. And this is the Ranunculus, and this is the Midori Hirose pattern. And this pattern is, I think, got to be one of the most made patterns on Ravelry, maybe. I made it when the pattern was probably already out for a few years, and I bought the yarn at my local yarn shop. And to be honest with you, I can't really tell you exactly what the base was. I know it's real. I have a little bit of it left. It's a very soft. I feel like this. It's mostly alpaca. But it's got some strength, so it must have a little bit of wool in it. It is it was the color cream. It's a soft, it's just so soft. And I added one strand of the Webb's, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on now. The Webb's Southampton, which is Webb's mohair silk blend, and it's 72% kid mohair and it's 28% mulberry silk. And these two yarns together created this beautiful soft fabric. It's very cropped. I made the cropped, and that's okay. I wear it with a camisole underneath, and I wear it with high-waisted white slacks during the holidays. I'm going to make this again at some point, and I'm definitely going to make it longer. You have to wear it with very high slacks or very high jeans to be comfortable, at least at my age, to be comfortable. I certainly don't want my belly button out there in public. I did make the I-cord band and the 3/4 sleeve, and I think that gave it a nice little holiday feel. I don't remember what size I made, and for those of you who have made this pattern, and for those of you who are thinking about it, you can make this pattern in just about any yarn on any size needle. And the designer has even updated the pattern to make it even more size inclusive. In the beginning, it didn't even have a size range, but now it does. And you're gonna love the patterning. It's a lot of fun little things that are going on. It does have some, I might even have it on backwards. No, I don't. It does have some German short rows in the back, or maybe it was wrap and turns, but I used the German short row method. And so that lets it sit a little higher in the back than the front. These lovely little eyelets. And once you get past the yoke, which takes no time at all, this is on a, I want to say I was maybe on a 9 or a 10 needle. I made this last year or so. But once you clear the yoke, it takes no time at all, because you're just stocking knit and a little bit of ribbing at the bottom. And you don't have to make this I-cord. I just thought it gave it kind of a little bit of a puff and a little bit of an elegant look. And so, like I said, I'm going to make it again. And next time I'm going to make it longer. I'm going to make it in a summer weight, maybe a cotton, or maybe a bamboo. Maybe I'll do 2 fingering weights. I don't know exactly, but I have been thinking about it, and I am going to make it again. It's a fantastic pattern. There's a reason why it's so popular and it's been out there so long. Okay, so I wanted to show you this cute little hat. This is called the Capitan Hat. And I'm going to include information for this and the hat in the show notes. I have a lot of information to cover today. There's going to be a lot of pictures and a lot going on. Hopefully that you're going to be seeing some of these things as I'm going. But I will include these 2 patterns. Or information to these 2 patterns. This is the Capitan Hat. This is a really cute hat. So you've got some cable work in the front, some wide ribbing in the back, this little band, a fun little brim, some buttons. I used 100% baby alpaca. Now, what I will say about that is it's kind of loose. I think the next time I make it, I would do a wool alpaca blend. I love the softness of the alpaca on my forehead. Maybe I would do it with alpaca and carry 1 strand of mohair silk, and that would give it a little bit more strength. But it really is cute. Now, the pattern has you make this band separately, and then you're really just holding it on by the 2 buttons. But I didn't mind that it was open here, but I did tack it down on the top. I didn't want that hanging and sliding. You do knit the band and long, and then in the middle of the band, there's 1 row of purl stitches that helps you fold that over and stitch it down on the inside. So you can just imagine how cozy and good this feels in baby alpaca. And I think it's a really fun piece. I like to wear it just sideways a little bit, just off the front of my face. So I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so what is on the mannequin? Well, this is interesting because this is not what it's designed to be. I have this on the mannequin right now as a little capelet. But this pattern is for a skirt. This is the Dickinson, designed by Norah Gaughan. And I'm showing you what it looks like as a skirt right now. And the called for yarn for this skirt is the Berroco Ultra alpaca. This is gorgeous yarn. This yarn is 50% wool and 50% fine alpaca. It feels lovely on. It's got a nice, you saw how well it looked as a turtleneck on that capelet and how well that held up. Well, it's holding up well at the top of the skirt as well. And you saw in the photo that this looks great in boots. It's got some beautiful patterning. It is just so typical Norah Gaughan. Norah Gaughan has been in the business for years. She is a knitwear designer, and most recently she is the editor of Vogue Knitting magazine. But for many, many years she designed for Berroco. And this pattern was in the Berroco volume 13 booklet that was put out by Berroco. And in some of my very first episodes, I talked about several projects that I made that came in these booklets. So there's the pattern. So two for one, right? Okay. So I have been working on a lot of holiday preparations, but I did manage to get some progress made on my Lazarette cardigan by Martin Story. And I am almost finished with the, let's see, this is the right front. And again, this combination of this red mohair, which was gifted to my mom and then re-gifted to me, and the Rowan Kid Classic yarn, which is 70% wool and 22% mohair, is a lovely combination. Now, a viewer did ask me last week if it was really fluffy. And the red mohair is quite fluffy. It has a much higher content of mohair. But the Rowan Kid Classic is really kind of stabilizing that. So in between the patterning, you've got more of a wool feeling. It has some halo, but it is not as hairy. It's not as hairy as the red mohair. So I think it's a nice stabilizer. And I think that this pattern, having just the red mohair patterning on the front and not on the sleeves and not on the back, was very smart. I think that's going to make it a little bit easier to wear, a little bit more, it's going to fit into my wardrobe a little easier. I think it will look great with jeans. I think it'll look nice with gray, a skirt, black slacks. So I hope to, I'm kind of funny in the way that, so now I've worked up one side of that pattern, but I think what I'll do next is I might put the sleeves on and just work in mindless stocking knit for a while, especially where we're like the week building up to Christmas. My mom is coming out, my sister-in-law is coming out. I may have a friend over to knit with at some point. I do have most of my holiday preparations done. I will do some some cooking and a little tidying before my mom gets here, but I've got pretty much everything else under control. So I think it would be fun to just get these sleeves on, and even when my mom is here, I would be able to just knit. It is knit in pieces, so I'm purling. So I will admit I am not using my continental knitting because I'm really not that quick or that good tension-wise with my purl stitches. I'm working on that, but I think for a piece, especially the back, a piece this big, I'm just going to use my right hand to knit. Now on the patterning, I am using my right hand and my left hand, and I am carrying the red, the dominant color, in my left hand. So I am still practicing with that, so I hope I will be working on this throughout the holidays. Okay, so now I just wanted to talk a little bit about gift giving. And I mentioned in one of my episodes that we don't do a whole lot of gift giving in either one of our families, my husband's or my mother's family, but we do like to do some little things. And I was thinking a little bit about gift giving. And my husband and I read this little daily affirmation book called Simple Abundance. It's been out since the late 90s, early 2000s. The author is Sarah Ben Bracknack. And every day there's just a little something, and it's, you know, talking about simplicity. And, you know, that's an interesting combination to say simple abundance. You don't think of abundance as being simple. But I think no time better than Christmas time do I want a simple, abundant experience. So some of the things that I do to create a joyous day and not feel overwhelmed by being in the malls or being shopping or being online is to maybe knit a little Santa or knit a hat or make my brother a pair of socks. I like that I can make cookies and I can bag those and gift those. And I spent a little time making some little sugar cookies with little Christmas trees. And I did a couple of different colors. I've got a pretty, you know, I love my blues and greens, so I have my blues and greens. And so I can deliver some cookies when I'm visiting, or if somebody comes over, I can put them out. This year I tried some gingerbread cookies and I used a royal icing on them. And another thing I did this year, I can't eat dark chocolate, and I love white chocolate. So I made some little white chocolate discs, and on one of them, I just chopped up some pistachios and some dried apricot and some cranberry and put them on the chocolate while it was still wet. And then I made another batch and I just crushed up some candy canes and I sprinkled some on that. So that's a nice little gift to give someone, you know, just a little bag of candy or a little bag of cookies to let them know you were thinking of them. Another thing that I found is on a podcast, and the podcast is called Mother Thyme, Thyme, like the herb. And she did a series for Vlogmas this year, and maybe she's done it in years past, but I just found her, called Gift in a Jar. And I was already using a simmering pot in my own home and really enjoying that experience. But when I do it at home, I use fresh orange and fresh cranberries. But this gift in a jar had you thinly sliced, and I did it with my knife, but if the next time I do this, I think I'll use my mandolin to get them even thinner. Thinly sliced oranges and apples, and put them in the oven at 200 for about 4 hours. It took me longer because my slices probably weren't thin enough. And then she had you dry cranberries, but I probably would just take my already dried cranberries and just put them in the oven and just dry them out a little bit more. So you use a little mason jar. I already had cinnamon sticks in the house and clove and a star in the house for my own simmering pot, and I bought them in quantity. So you just take this little jar and you put some cloves and some star anise, and you start layering in some dried orange and some dried apple. You get the cinnamon in before you get too much more in, and then maybe another little round of your spices and a few more pieces of orange and apple. Close that up, and on that website, she gives you the printable tag with the instructions. So if you're going to give this, so the person receiving it knows exactly what to do. And I had some kind of heavy stock card paper in the house, so I printed that out. I cut those out. I just wrote, you know, handmade for you, from me. And the directions said you could either use apple cider or water. Put that in your saucepan, empty the jar into it, add water as needed, let this simmer, and your house is going to smell beautiful. So another very simple gift that can become a holiday tradition. So thank you to Mother Thyme for that idea. And she does a couple of others that you can put the ingredients to make oatmeal cookies or chocolate chip cookies or a bread. But that simmering pot, because I had all the ingredients, that got my attention. Another thing that I think when we're talking about, gifts during the holiday season or during any time, I think the gift of our time to our loved ones. And I want to read you this little quote that I saw in that book that I was telling you about, Simple Pleasures. And this is a quote from the poet May Sarton. And May Sarton said, "There is only one real deprivation, and that is not to be able to give one's gift to those one loves most." Not to be able to give one's gift to those one loves most. And I was thinking about that. So not only, we crafters, we can give the gift of our knits or our embroiders or our crochets, or those of us who bake can give the gift of cookies or a holiday bread. But we can also give the gift of our time. We can make that phone call. We can sit down and write some Christmas cards. And I know that maybe is becoming an old-fashioned tradition, but I still do love to sit down and write a little something. And my husband and I have a tradition where the first week in December, we put up our tree and I save the Christmas cards from the previous year, and we sit down with our coffee and we reread the Christmas cards from the previous year. And that kind of gets in my mind where I left off with some of the folks that maybe I only correspond with once a year. And that gets me excited to write this year's cards. Of course, a FaceTime or a Zoom with friends. But the gift of our time, and I think also the gift of our enthusiasm and the gift of our creativity goes a long way. With especially people who live out of state, maybe who live alone, maybe who have lost a loved one this year. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm doing simple things that are bringing me joy, and I'm hoping that when I pass on these traditions or these gifts or that phone call or that Christmas card, that I'm sending my love and my joy with it. I would be interested to hear what simple traditions you have that are that give you as much joy as the joy that the recipient is going to receive. So I'm thinking that's all I really had for you today, and I am wishing you a beautiful Christmas or a beautiful Hanukkah or a beautiful winter solstice. I did want to mention that for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, we are going to have a meteor shower on December 22nd. And I don't know about you, but our sunsets and our sunrises have been magnificent. So I can only imagine if we have a clear sky on December 22nd, what that meteor shower might be like. Oh, and another tradition that we have, and I know most of you have this too, is I like to review some certain books and certain movies. So, for instance, my husband and I like to watch the George C. Scott version of Scrooge. We like to watch The Polar Express, a couple of Hallmark movies that I enjoy. We always like to watch The Holiday with Kate Winslet and Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, and we like to watch Love Actually. There's some really fun ones out there. And I was just watching Morgan Long, and I mentioned her in a couple of episodes ago. She did a whole Halloween little witchy video, but she also, in her most recent, she's doing Vlogmas, and some of her Vlogmas, she's given some really good suggestions for some holiday books and some holiday movies that I hadn't seen before. So I've got a couple of books that I'm going to try. And there is a tradition, and I believe it's in the Netherlands, where on Christmas Eve they give each other books, and so on Christmas night everyone just goes and lights a candle and maybe makes themselves a hot cup of cocoa or a hot cup of tea and reads. And I love that tradition. So if you think of it and you have, I know everyone's busy right now, but if you think of it and you have some time, leave me a comment of maybe what one of your favorite simple holiday traditions is. All right, I guess I will see you next week with my mom. It'll be after Christmas, but it'll be before New Year's, and I will share some of our New Year traditions with you. Goodbye.